In January 2009, CL Financial, which is the Caribbean's largest conglomerate, wrote to the Central Bank of Trinidad and Tobago seeking a bailout because they had run out of money. The decision of the Trinidad and Tobago government to support the CL Financial request ended up with the Trinidad and Tobago government spending 25 billion Trinidad and Tobago dollars in public money. And that is the largest amount of public money that has ever been spent in the Caribbean on a single project. And it represents a perfect scandal, a perfect storm of financial irresponsibility and a lack of accountability for our money as taxpayers in this country. In January of 2009, we were told that the cost of the bailout would be around $5 billion. We learned later, in September of 2010, that in fact $7.3 billion had been spent. We later learned from the Prime Minister on the 1st of October 2010 that a further $7 billion would be needed to pay the whole cost of the bailout. So the estimate at that point in time was $14.3 billion. Cycling forward, we learned on the 3rd of April 2012 that $12 billion had been spent and a further $12 billion needed to be spent. On the 1st of October 2012, in which Hawaii told the Parliament that $19.7 billion had been spent. And of course, we then come forward to the 2nd of April 2014, when there was an official press release from the Office of the Attorney General, and that press release said that over $25 billion had been spent in the course of the bailout. And I was quite surprised to hear for myself on the 7th of August of 2015, Finance Minister Larry Hawaii saying on television on CNMG that in fact the cost of the bailout was not quite $20 billion. The actual amount of our money that has been spent remains in question, because even when you take the statements of the highest officials at face value, there's a tremendous amount of confusion. What is the true figure? Do we know the true figure? Will we ever know the true figure? In my search to get at this information, I made several Freedom of Information requests, because here in Trinidad and Tobago we have a Freedom of Information Act, which makes it a fact of law that all of the information held by a public authority belongs to the citizenry. I took the Minister of Finance to court in March of 2013 to seek particular information. The 3 pieces of information I wanted are the accounts of CL Financial. Secondly, the official briefing of our parliamentarians by the then Minister of Finance and the then Governor of the Central Bank. And thirdly, the details of the creditors, who received money and when did they receive it. I was successful. The High Court awarded a judgment in my favor. I beat the state in that litigation. That judgment came in my favor on the 22nd of July 2015. And the government has filed an appeal on the 10th of August 2015. And in fact, it is certainly clear that the Minister of Finance is intent on avoiding his responsibility to account to the public for how this public money was spent. The Minister of Finance is a public servant. He's as much a public servant as Excellency President Carmona or the man sweeping the pavement outside Woodford Square at 5 o'clock in the morning. They're all public servants. And there's no disrespect intended, but they have to function as public servants and serve the interests of the public. If they continue with that appeal, if the government prevails, we are dealing with a situation in which it will be established that they can refuse to give information about public contracts because the private people involved have expressed an objection. And I say no. Because if that government case prevails, what it will mean for you is if you are trying to get information about an employment question, about a health question, about a public contract, about another matter, you could be told that in fact we're very sorry, but the appeal court has ruled that we don't have to give that information. That is what is at stake. The entire battle we have fought for independence and Republican status and proper rights in our country would be jeopardized, because we will then have a cadre of public officials who can spend our money, exercise authority on our behalf, and evade scrutiny, evade transparency, and in fact wreck our democracy.